of yourself. So we all said we need to shift it and would rather not do it. And then we would beautifully, and Sinead, you were like, yes, that's okay. Everyone, I think
Thank
every
you.
woman here wanted to take care of each other and we put ourselves first. And that felt really right to actually get to this LinkedIn Live, which is actually all about menopause, but I would say self care in the age of the portfolio career. And that's the conversation we're going to have with the amazing Sinead, who I've known, it seems like forever actually, but it's not been forever, but lots of cackles and laughter. Do you want to introduce yourself before we get to the usual suspects?
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, we've known each other for over 10 years anyway. Um, I'll maybe explain that in a moment. So, hello, thank you for having me. I'm Sinead Sharkey Steenson. I am a leadership coach and work specifically with women, and I particularly love helping women connect with their genius zone, which is something that I think we can get very disconnected from, or maybe not spot at all, especially during perimenopause and menopause, because we can lose touch with who we are, what we're about, our confidence, and that's really what I'm about. I just love helping women step up into a space where they feel as comfortable and confident as possible.
And you've been doing that for over a decade. So not only Generation Women, but now you have the most awesome event, which sells out every single time in Ireland, which might go to another country at some point, right? But
Yes.
we're actually going to have Sinead twice, one at the end, because I think this is a woman that also goes big. So we wanted to make sure that we brought you on for menopause because it's at the core of what you do. But there is no right time to start anything. Like you've literally exploded where you're going to have this another big event and it competes with the TEDx's and everything out there which you've got. So I just wanted to kind of like let people know because I just know how awesome you are, but maybe
Oh,
not
thank
everyone else
you.
does. But anyway, then we got the usual suspects who I love. Fiona and Eileen, where do you want to start, darlings?
I want to hear from
Go on,
Eileen.
Iona.
No, I've just seen Chantel today. I'm curious about how you've been, Eileen.
Me. Oh God, a quick round robin tour. I was feeling really groggy, and I have been for a really long time. And it transpired that I was suffering with gallstones, which again, anyone that has had pregnancy late in life, it is super, super common for us women, not so much for men. And I was carrying this around, feeling rubbish, and it got to the stage where I couldn't even eat the thin stem broccoli without being in absolute agony and crying.
Oh, she's gone.
Oh,
Oh, we
So
lost her.
broccolini wasn't working.
So,
But we'll let her
yeah. All I know
record.
about gallstones is it's one of the most painful things you can experience. So I'm not surprised it happens more for women because I think we can handle the
I'm all for the soft life, Sheena. Like, I want less.
No, I don't think it should happen, but like
It
it's
does.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's typical because our bodies just have
Yeah.
way more challenges to deal with than men's, without
Yes.
a doubt.
So while we're waiting for Eileen to come back, I was going to just set a frame around what we're going to talk about. And, as I posted, there were a couple of things that came to mind. One is menopause or perimenopause. So menopause being that after 12 months you haven't had a period, right? But there's the perimenopause, which Iona was feeling today as I was teaching human
Yes,
and
hello,
AI
Lucy.
ethics. And she was
Listen to
like,
this.
open the windows, it's really hot. Is it just me? I'm like, yes, darling, it's just you. But there, I think one is the stage in life where you don't give a crap anymore because there is something that happens. Oh, live with, oh, okay, live with Eileen. Okay, I don't know what the message is, but we haven't got Eileen at the moment. There's something that happened, which means that you're literally just going, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. So there's this mindset shift because you've dealt with so much crap in the past
Yes.
You don't give an F anymore. That's number one.
I think so. What I'm interested to listening today is, it hits us at the time where we really, a lot of times coming back from family work, for part-time work. It is the peak of our expertise. It is 40s to 55. This is when hopefully a lot of noise around imposter syndrome maybe also go away, and we want to do things next career step, business impact, and so on. And then this challenge comes right here, understudied, undersupported. So that's
hang on,
what
number one is mindset. Number one is mindset. Number two is that you actually have, because I lost my thread when you did that. Number two is that actually your body is going through so many changes that work might no longer support you in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
And so this is why it also might be an option. So the number one, there's a mindset shift. And number two, work, or the traditional form of work, no longer supports you. And then number three is, if you go into another form of career, like a portfolio career, what is it that you do that's different so you can look after yourself? So I think those are the three things. And like you said, Iona, you're approaching that phase. But what are your thoughts, Sinead? Because you support so many people going through this. What is it that you hear from people?
Yeah.
And what's happening, in terms of the changes, that they need to make?
Well, I mean, if I could share a wee bit of my perimenopause experience, because before I went through it, I was coaching a lot of women that were coming to me, and we're talking C-suite level women, and they would sit down in front of me, whether on Zoom or in person, and be like, I don't know who I am anymore. And I kept hearing them saying this one thing regularly. I think I should just go and stack shelves in the supermarket, which is perfectly fine thing to do. But when you're hearing a CEO sit there and go, I think I'm going to go and stack shelves in the supermarket, you're like, okay, what's going on here? And I would coach them through and get them back to themselves. And then I hit perimenopause, because they were like maybe late 30s, 40s, and then I hit it. And thankfully, here in the UK, we have the wonderful Davina McCall, who was talking about it just as I started to hit it. And it was none of the things that I associated with menopause. I didn't have hot flushes. I didn't have, the things that people talked about. But I had intense rage. I had I was actually suicidal with my moods. It was really horrendous. I went through an awful, awful time. And I realised I totally lost who I was. But it hit me when I realised what I was going through. Oh my goodness, this is what my clients have all been dealing with, and they didn't know what it was. And so for many women, it can be a real crunch point, and it's not necessarily as extreme as I or my clients have experienced, but there can be a real loss of who you are, what I'm here for, energy low, as well as all the symptoms that we know about, but a real confidence crash and a lot of anxiety. A lot of women experience massive anxiety. Suddenly they can't make decisions in the way they used to. They stress about traveling, doing things that they took without thinking as second nature. Suddenly I can't do this. What is wrong with me? And so it can be a real crunch point for a lot of women. And thankfully we talk about it now.
Yeah. And I think it's the realization that this is very real, because we're talking like C-suite people. So these are people which are so turned on, and obviously people, it's not about hierarchy. People are turned on, but I'm just giving an example that these people were likely managing boardrooms, conversations, this, and then suddenly they lose their identity, their confidence, and they're anxious on everything. And I think, Iona, that's what you were picking up on as well, like the mid-career experts, right?
I mean, because it comes together with maybe your next career step, maybe starting a business, maybe founding a startup. It's hard to say, well, is this a new task that kind of destabilizes me, or is this something else? And a lot of time, for my portfolio career coaching, this is not even a question that maybe it might be something physical. So what I've experienced over a long period, also with my daughter, is that a lot of challenges are being kind of psychosomatized and say, oh, do you have stress in life? Do you have this? Do you have this? And we do not look at the physical part and say, well, maybe this stress comes from here first, and then if I am more tired and I cannot show up for 8 hours, then I will have stress. It will impact my life, my relationships, my kids, if I cannot show up. And I don't mean show up 24/7, just how I could show up before. So that's, I feel with women especially, a lot of psychology, a lot of mindset, even leadership coaching sometimes dismisses maybe a real, core issue that is there before this anxiety, before this brain fog and so on. And it comes in a time where, like, okay, maybe this is too much for me. Maybe this next step is just not meant to be. I don't have what it takes, which is absolute, bullshit. It's just absolute, mental noise. I think we have a lot of presidents right now that can really quiet any imposter syndrome that any woman has. That's the only very little light at the end of the tunnel.
How do we always mention that dude? How?
How did you know what I meant?
But how could you not?
I hope there is absolutely no
refrain
syndrome anymore. Like, really.
Yeah, women shouldn't have imposter syndrome anymore.
But I'm really interested, Jeanette, like, for this, you have this experience of you before and after, and you were in the coaching. How did you, see that, like, how did you think, oh, maybe it's this? How did you kind of, made you think, oh, maybe it's something else?
For me personally, or with my coaching, because for me personally, it was so extreme an experience that I knew it wasn't, there had to be something more going on, because I was like I couldn't function for days without crying. I was just, yeah, and I'd never thought like that before. I'd never felt like that before. And I always say I'm grateful, A, for the experience, and B, for the extremity of it, even though it was awful at the time. But it made me go searching for answers. Whereas if it had been mild and just like a slow losing of myself a bit, would I then be as good a coach I am of women now? I don't think so, because I think you kind of need to go through it to really understand what other women are experiencing. It's hard to conceive of.
See, I find, so I'm I suppose by GP standards perimenopausal, but I always find it really difficult to wrap my head around that. Is this not something that is almost gradual? Like, comparing it to, I don't know where I got cut off earlier, the whole gallbladder piece. It was something that was so gradual that happened that I actually didn't even realize was occurring within my body, to the extent that it was just like, now your body's on total shutdown and lockdown. And I kind of akined it to that. And the only way I can describe it is afterwards, I felt like I woke up. And I think that that's always my concern with things like this. And because as women, we just naturally trudge on and we carry on. And there's just so much, whether it's the emotional labor that we have, it's the care labor, it's the work labor, it's all of those things that rolled into one. You are almost just push yourself through it, that yourself almost, and I know this sounds really harsh, but yourself almost disintegrates over time And I would imagine, and again, I'm not there, but I would imagine that is probably more common than this real overnight shock to the system, where people realize they wake up and they have these deep thoughts and the experience that you've gone through. So given you work with so many, could you shed some light on the differences?
And so it wasn't an overnight experience for me. It was a drip effect. It just got to a very extreme level before I realized what was going on, and I questioned it. So I had children quite late. You were talking about that. And so I have my second daughter when I was 39. I think I went straight from her into perimenopause. Yeah. And it was a gradual thing. So my energy never came back. You know, painful joints, that kind of thing. Just mine, untreated, got to such an extreme level that I couldn't function, and that's what I'm grateful for. And you're right, a lot of us do just put up with and think, oh, I think we have this thing where we think, when I get to this, it'll be better. So when I've less on my plate, or when that project's over, or when I when the school holidays hit, or when and we just delay our shitstorm. Just keep going on and on.
Like, I don't have time. Like, I was
Sinead, you're describing my life.
So this is why I'm grateful that mine hit so freaking hard, because I'm like, no, stop trudging through it. Get sorted out. Get the help. And something else that I've seen, and I know you talk about neurodivergence, and I think a lot of the women, several of the women I work with, whether they know it or not, are neurodivergent, and it hits so bloody hard with that. And so then there's this whole unraveling and crumbling of all of these finely tuned strategies that we've had going on. And Chantal, you described at the beginning the not giving a fuck moment, and it being that time of life. We just don't have time to give a fuck anymore. Nope. Like, it's just like, I haven't got the space for this.
Oh, can't hear, Eileen.
And we've lost Sam.
I said I want that on a t-shirt. I don't have time to give a fuck. That's brilliant. Brilliant.
I have two layers on this, actually, because you mentioned the neurodivergency, and it's really interesting. So my daughter in her periods, it's time, you know, when you're on your period, for example, your drugs don't work. So for her, it doesn't work. So at the opposite end, I completely understand in terms of ADHD drugs and things like that. And there have been things in her body which are completely different. And when you go to the doctor, they don't understand. They're like, well, we don't actually have any scientific link, right? It's because we're not really researched. We're not really researched as women, not only at menopause, but at periods, yeah? So I can...
anything.
Yeah, we're underfunded, under-researched. I think totally understand there's a link there. The second layer is, you know, for me, I bled straight for 9 months, and chronic stress. So the other thing I would say, and I don't know if you've had clients, but chronic stress can push you into menopause. And for me, it was the chronic stress. I'm already in menopause. I have not had a period for maybe over 2 years.
I'm a little bit jealous.
Well, you're post-menopause, Chantal.
Yeah. So post, so yes, at the point of, you're absolutely right. But there was that whole, so for me, what really helped was a conversation in Bath. I had flown over for a friend's 50th birthday. And there was a friend who was doing her master's in menopause. And she said, Chantal, you should follow a lady called Louise Newson. And I got her Balance app. And they had been measuring my levels at the gynecologist. And she said, look, just start recording everything. Ooh. Sorry, is that me? No, not me. Oh, yes, it is me. And I would normally always answer my dad, but I'm not going to answer my dad. I would get my gynecologist, a female, and I literally took to her and I showed her, this is what's happening to me. This is...
And we've lost your sound now, Chantal.
Your dad wants to join us.
If you want, you can take the call real fast, because I know he tried to reach you today too. So we can, yes. No, I don't hear you.
Oh, and it's interesting, a lot of what you're saying there, Chantal, because there's so many avenues we could go down right now with it. But I mean, that under research and then under support of us, and then not being believed when we go and share the evidence, because there's nothing, over the age of 40, particularly over 45 in the UK, is a blood test isn't going to tell you anything. It's what are the symptoms and what's going on, and just being believed. Thankfully, I've had a range of doctors, but my main one believes me and trusts me and was supportive. And just to her, Chantal saying about Dr. Louise Newson, she actually prescribed me her book at my first appointment. She said, go and get this book and read this, because I can tell you all the stuff.
Share it.
And she said, go and read it and make an informed decision on what you think you want to do next. And so it gives you loads of research on HRT and what's going on, and it's invaluable. And just that moment, even right there, was phenomenal. But the other thing, when I'd spoken to another doctor previously, and they had asked me, have you done this, and have you, like, what are you doing exercise, are you doing mindfulness,
are you drinking water,
have you changed your diet, and it's like, I am suicidal, I have no energy, my joints hurt, I'm crying all the time, I don't want to do all of those things. I just want some freaking help right now. And so they said, okay, I think you might need to see another doctor. And that was when I got the one that prescribed Louise Newson's book. So, and then I was like, oh, finally, I'm here. I've got somebody that gets it. And we went from there. So sorry, Chantal. Yeah, you're back.
Oh, cool, perfect. No, I think you gave the point, because you were directing it to that. I'm just saying, get information, get help, get the data, and there's a really good resource out there to do so.
I'm gonna put this in the chat. Also, like, I just googled her fast, and or also in the comments we'll put her.
And then really the third thing was,
sorry.
The third thing was that there's such a mental health symptoms and menopause symptoms. There's such an overlap. The story that you shared, like, it's really important that people know and understand that, because all of these feelings, you need to get help, right?
Yeah. Well, there was something you said, Chantal, there about stress. Sorry, Aileen, I'll just quickly say this. I think a lot of women, so stress exacerbates your symptoms. So whether it pushes you into perimenopause, it certainly exacerbates your symptoms. And I think a lot of women write off what they're going through as stress, but it's actually making everything worse. And so that's the bit that I tackle first with women, is if you're dealing with stress, like, get to the GP and let's look at how you're managing your stress, what's going on, how can we make that easier for you, because when you lighten the stress load, everything gets better.
It's a bit of a chicken egg situation, because stress impacts cortisol, right? So scientifically, cortisol impacts hormones, and so your hormones are all array, and so you're just in this cycle that you can speed something up or you can act. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg situation that people are in around.
The best is to address both, like, the best would be to address both. I can put my hand to fire that every woman is under supported. I can even looking at us. So I think you can always look at more support, but also, like, this part always is true. But then the physical part, it's really the one that we do not look at. Like, that's the part where we dismiss maybe more, like, or this is my experience, that it gets 90% dismissed, is the physical part. And it's very, very late that you have to go with really extreme symptoms because nobody believes you when you go before. But I would love to know more about your experience, or like your best. So to shift a little bit from, okay, this was awareness, it is happening to all of us. It is really, very, really challenging. So now, we have this framework. Now what? It's sad to accept. Even today, I think it is a really sad and challenging reality to accept. And now, what do we do with it? So I'm really interested in your biggest gems that people pay thousands to get in coaching calls with you. I need them, even if I take one gem, because maybe that's all I'm going to remember, but I would really love your gem. So if you think of,
Okay.
portfolio, career, midlife, what's your, what is getting overlooked, and what are your gems? What can they take away?
Okay, well, let's start with the thing that we've already said. The first thing is, it is to go and get medical help. And so I was working with a client who is at the absolute top of her profession. And she came to me with a crisis of stress and confidence. And she was already on HRT. She was in her mid to late 50s. And I said, when's the last time you've had a HRT review? Because she was crippled with anxiety and all the rest of it. And she said, oh, not for years. I was like, go and see, maybe it's worth getting your dosage up to whatever. And overnight, her anxiety just disappeared. Not completely, but massively reduced. And so then she's in a position to be able to do more with what we do. So I would say number one is always medical, and then number two is what's going on in terms of managing your stress. So Chantel, you started the session with the 3 things, and you said mindset is first, and that's the next thing that we really look at, because when your body is under that much stress, it triggers your brain massively. So you're in stress mode. You're leading already with the worst bits of your brain the best bits of your brain cut off, or the worst bits cutting off the best bits. It's like that stress is stopping you from being in the best possible place that you can be. And so we work on that, and there's a few different strategies. I mean, some of it's why women have to reach for mindfulness, but working with your nervous system. So anything to do with your breathing, and I look at my dog as an example. So my dog gets up every morning, and the first thing she does is fully shake out her body. And bizarrely, that will massively help you to reset. Shaking out your body and a really good breathing. And you don't have to sit and meditate. I'm just talking a bit of in for 4, hold for 4, out for 8. Yeah. Just to engage your parasympathetic nervous system and calm that shit down. So 2 things you can do early doors. There's lots more, but we'll get into them after.
There is science around the shaking out the body. We do that in the Equity Sanctuary. It's all around grounding.
Yeah.
And the problem is that, especially, we're a lot of us are very intellect. We've got no imposter syndrome, but we put all of the energy up here. We're thinking. And we were not designed to be at computers for, 8 hours a day or things like that, that we're not really shaking and bringing this energy balance in our body. So if you think about something in the haka, you think about the haka, and you're really stamping out and you're kind of getting up and you're distributing this, right? It's bringing your energy. So it's about grounding and centering yourself, which I always say to my Equity Sanctuary people, indigenous populations, you have known for centuries.
Yeah.
And so your dog, I love that. And I don't know if your cat, I meet Erinna's cat all the time on our calls, but animals do this, it's just that they're doing this piece where they're distributing their energy, and stuck energy in things like Chinese medicine and things like that are not good. So there is actual science around what you're saying.
Yeah.
But this is the crazy thing, right? And I find it fascinating. I'm a big barefoot on grass person. And I find it fascinating that sometimes you'll have conversations with people and they dismiss the whole idea of energy and the impact that makes. But then they'll have a conversation about how the moon is impacting the tidal waves and all the rest of it, which is energy, or how you actually connect to your Wi-Fi system, which is complete invisible energy. So it says it all in itself. But I wanted to just bring us back to the medical point, because I think you really touched an important point a little bit earlier, Sinead, when you said going to a doctor that actually has your back or your corner. And I think that that's a really tough one, that especially I'm in the UK for those that are just tuning in and don't know. And the challenge that we have in the UK, it is potluck who your GP is. It is very much a case of you could be really lucky and have one that backs you until the death, but actually 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a lot of questions, there's going to be a lot of pushback, there's going to be a lot of hoops to get through. So again, when you're up against it and there's that element of I just don't have the energy to fight, have you ever had people that have fast tracked it or have got hacks, or there's ways to kind of navigate that system a bit better? I'm just thinking, I can imagine that is a real pain point for so many.
Yeah, and it is tricky because I'd say it's similar unless you're it's similar across the board, probably most countries, because menopause is it's not mandatory in most medical training, and if it is, it's an hour or something ridiculous. So so you wanted to see a specialist. I mean, unfortunately, you are at the mercy of the doctors or going private to a specialist. But the fast tracks are track your symptoms. So like the Balance app that Chantel mentioned.
Yeah.
Write everything down. You could track your symptoms, and it's rubbish. Like, as somebody that's had to advocate for my children and now myself, it's hard blooming work. But the alternative is worse. And so it's like, it's being knowledgeable on what's going on, what the possible symptoms are, and knowing that actually you have estrogen receptors in every cell of your body. That's why there's such a wide range of symptoms. So when suddenly...
So is that the starting point? Would you say that anyone that's listening to this and they're thinking about their journey and they're thinking, oh, actually, some of this is resonating. They've gone outside, they've walked around, done a bit of a hacker dance, they've got some energy out, they've walked on grass, they're actually still feeling a bit shoddy. It is the first point of call going to check your estrogen, testosterone, your hormonal levels and balance. Is that the first point of call?
No, because over the age of 40, really in your 40s, it's a pointless exercise. But here in the UK, over the age of 45, they base it on symptoms only. Because your hormone levels are all over the place from your mid-30s onwards. So knowing your symptoms and tracking them. If you're over the age of 41, they will test here, and they will test your hormone levels. But don't accept the first test as the answer, I would say, because it's so variable. And so the annoying thing is you have to keep pushing. So know your symptoms, slap them in the face with those, and if you're in the age group, ask for the test, but know that they're meaningless.
And I would also say that the test itself is meaningless, because for me, the journal provides the picture. So on the app, which is free, by the way, you can journal.
What is that called again? Let's share. We'll share it in the
thing. You get a report, and so when you're going to your doctor with like, hey, here's the evidence, here's what it says. Hot sweats, things that you wouldn't even imagine, which were menopause symptoms, right? Because as you said, estrogen is every part of your body. Yeah, exactly. These things are all there, and you're getting this complete picture, and you're going with them that they just can't ignore you. So I think I love that they've done this the other way around, because the medical system is not prepared for this. So how do we arm the patient? How do we arm you to be more pieces? So you're doing all of that, and you're getting the, then you're getting the support. And then I think you're like, so what am I going to do with my life now, actually, which is the bit that we've all kind of said, and I think perimenopause or menopause or postmenopause, we're like, life's too short.
Yeah.
And I think that the other thing is, I think there's power behind menopause. I wish we would have that power sooner, some of us as well. But there is the power behind that, because you don't care anymore. Life is short. I'm just going to, what am I now going to do? This is actually probably the prime of my life.
Yeah.
Like the prime where, oh my gosh, I've actually developed all these skills. How could I apply them? And Iona and I were having a conversation with many people today, because it always comes up like, oh, but I do this and this, not me, the other people. And I said, well, have you heard about M-type shaped skills? The fact that you probably are mid-career, 20, 25 plus years, means that you might have developed expertise in, HR, AI, tech, or marketing, and all these things. You have more than one skill. And you have a whole load of lived experience, and as women and relational experience. And you're like, well, what could I do? If I was going to make an impact on this planet before I left, what am I going to do? And I think that's why you get very powerful women that you probably coach, Sinead. I don't know. Do you see this in this?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's less that we don't care anymore. It's that we don't care as much about everybody else, and we start caring more about ourselves. Because I think quite often with the women I see, they've been last on their list for forever. And it's like, no, like you say, you realise life is short. This is my time. Like the number of women I coach that say, yes, I'm coming to work with you because this is my time. And so I think women are very purpose driven anyway, and it just comes into laser focus. And you said it, Chantel, what do I want my impact to be? So most of the women I speak to at this stage, they're like, it's not about more money, although I tell them it is. Because we deserve the more money and to be purposeful and have an impact. So they leave ready for all of those things.
So I mean, that's a really great the segue into impact and money, and because you can make a bigger impact with more money. You can also support other women with money, and not just smiles and hugs and visibility. Like
more power.
We can aim towards really sharing creating money and sharing money and doing this impact. Is there any like why? So we heard I don't care so much. This helps, but what I see is sometimes a bit of a stress. Like I don't have this much time to to be. Is to see results. Like I want it fast now. I've waited for so long, and I think the challenge is to find the balance between where do even if life is short, still have to wait or be patient, and where is absolutely no time to wait no more. So for example, in terms of finances, I think that is no time to wait no more. You really need to scale those finances now. If you're 40 something, you don't wait 5 years to have 10% more. Like this is too slow for if you want to make a big impact. So in that area, no. But can you give, I don't know, 5 tips? Okay, 3 tips. I'm social media driven, like 3
You want holistical.
She wants it in a TikTok format. Go.
Like slides, just that one per slide,
Right.
For the money.
Yeah, where I start with women, and this is why I mentioned the Genius Zone, because quite often women get to where they are by doing too much for too many people, and feeling they have to prove themselves. I get them to focus, and this is where it's important, particularly important for a portfolio career, focus on what are you amazing at, and quite often it's stuff you're really overlooking. So it's the things you take for granted because you're a master at them. It's easy to you. You don't realize not everybody can do this like you. And so we really focus and zoom in on what's your zone of genius. So where you're at your strongest, most confident, most at ease, most impactful. Like, isn't that a great fucking place to start and be like, this is where I'm going to focus? Because you can earn more, you enjoy it more, you have more impact, and it's the key to unlocking the type of career that you want. And when you can connect with that properly, you value yourself more and you ask for more value, more money from others.
Genius.
Yeah. So
That's
that,
one
I
thing.
think this is a
Next on
great
your list.
tip because a lot of times I agree, or I do when I do portfolio career, or especially consulting, when someone shifts from corporate to entrepreneurship. This is one of the rearranging of 3/4 of your brain. That's the biggest shift, because in a lot of corporate environments, the hyper focus will be of what you're missing. So, okay, you did all the results. Okay, good, no, that was your job anyway. And then these 5% are missing, and then focus on this 5% for the next year. So this is a very hard environment to be and develop this huge self-driven confidence on what you're good at.
Yeah.
This is the number one. And the second one is what I like what you say, and I see the same, is that where you're good or like fast, you think that's easy for everyone. And that's a lot of times where women don't charge. Because like, okay, but I've solved this, and I've seen this with Chantal. I mean, she solves extremely complex, I don't know, AI workflows or whatnot, because it's fast, it's obvious, and so on. And we are stuck, I know, 1,000 steps behind. That's exactly what they don't charge for. It was like, well, it was easy. I did it in 2 minutes.
yeah.
How do you feel? Like, how do you help them shift this?
So it's funny, I have this conversation almost daily with clients, because that's who I work with. They're really fast and they don't value it. So it's about slowing it down, and I'm really zooming in on what is it that you're doing. How do you know to do that? What impact does that have? You know, how do other people see it and value it? And shining a light on that. So because it's fast and easy, quite often women dismiss that as, oh, well, that's just, no, that's it. That's the gold right there. And so getting really clear on that. So I have a thing where I love listening to women describe what they do. And then I'll dig. And I'm like, okay, have you just realized how much you've thrown away as being nothing, and it's absolute gold dust? So that's the starting place. And then it's about making that visible. So owning it, talking about it, sharing how impactful that is, or, you know, taking people through your process, because I think other people don't see it because you do it so fast and it's easy. Like Chantal just, you know, kind of laughed and went, oh, it's just, but if people don't understand it, they can't value it.
Yeah.
I think it's not only that, it's not necessarily just not understanding it. I think there's this huge element that a lot of people from the outside have an impression of how little work has gone into that success, and the lack of appreciation for the years of graft and really nurturing that skill set or that ability is totally undermined, totally. And I think we assume as women we can have it all at the same time, rather than recognizing we can have it all but just not at the same time. So I think just thinking about those is important as well.
Yeah, I think that's why the question of how did you know to do that? Like, what is the skill? And so it's on you to share that. Like 10 years working in this environment where is how I've got the experience. And so that's part of what you're shining the light on. because it's like that adage of the plumber, you know, charges £10,000 to come in and tap a pipe, but it's the 20 years knowledge, you know, that told her where to tap the pipe, you know.
I think there's another gem in what you were saying, which is the power of the pause, right? So many people are being laid off, or they're having a pause. And I'm not saying it's easy. You can be in literally fight or flight mode, depending on how much you have behind you, right? There is something in the pause where if you get the right help, be it a coach, be it someone, to really understand what is your genius zone, and then behind that, what value, if you are not in a corporate environment, do you put on that? Because these are often the things that are undervalued for women, particularly in a corporate zone, because they're taken advantage of, right? Or there's things that, so when you bring that into a portfolio career, you're actually structuring it in terms of what are the things that I make visible that I just find really easy. How do I build a process around that, and how do I create value around that? Because actually you're getting, you know, paid for that and bringing value individually. But in a corporate setting, for different intersectional reasons, it might have been underestimated. It might have even been seen as a threat. It might, all of these things. And then Iona, you were talking about this piece of research today over lunch. We were at a lovely Afghani restaurant. And this research where women receive 70% of like negative feedback. It's just negativity coming towards us. And so you don't probably realize your own value.
Yeah.
And
do
then
you know the research, Jeanette? There is this where they, you know, audited. This is what I love about AI. I think it is very sad, but it, like the gaps in the data in the medical field, I think it was a huge gasp of, oh, we have not studied half of humanity. This is one part. And the other one, which we now have data for how and why women feel a certain way, and they were not overreacting, and you have it black on white. You have the critical feedback that women get in from, you know, from the practicum from 16 until 60, the way they're interrupted more often. But definitely the highly critical feedback, and it's really hard to not take it in, especially from authority figures, from, you know, huge teams, corporates. And I think we have a huge opportunity now with this online connection that was not before. You were alone, and you were the only. I've spoken to so many women who were the first in their fields and in their endeavors, in their families. There was a huge loneliness and dealing with those 70%. It's actually amazing that we're still here where we are today. We are standing on the shoulders, I say, of women that were in psychiatries and they crawled their way out of it. Yeah. So that's our giants that we are standing today, that fought for, you know, voting rights, what everyone said. So these are the women that we stand, you know, the shoulders on. What do you see as our, you know, what do we do for the next generations of girls and women coming after us? Like, what are we shifting today so they have it just a little bit better?
Well, I think I love that, by the way, and I'd like you to send me that research. I think that sounds amazing. What are we? Well, I think we're shifting the conversation. So, I think for the women that you've talked about, it's had to be, you know, be the male, adapt to the male world, and instead I think we're going, no, hold on a minute, we're doing all of this, and while bleeding, while in pain, while all of the rest of it, and so it's that recognition that there's no shame in any of these conditions. We're blowing all of that away. We're changing that for the girls and the women that come behind us, and saying, actually, there's a power and a strength in it. We have to embrace that and own it. And so, yes, men may have a steady dose of hormone every day, and we work in a cycle, and that can be challenging. and it means we're fucking superheroes week of the month. We're a shit show one week of the month, we're whatever. But we work with it and we still knock it out. But we don't have to be superheroes. And I'm just saying how you feel. We show up and we be who we are. So we're saying this is women and we're still awesome, but we don't have to be doing everything. And we're dealing with all of that.
I have another really great piece of research or reframing for you, hormonal, because I just read last week that actually the week before our period, where we're more like aggressive, more moody and so on, it's actually where our hormones are relatable to the men's ones. So it's actually when we're emotional and aggressive and not, that's where we have, and then 3 weeks of the month we are actually more leveled, we're not aggressive. So that's the only that we're actually very similar to. Maybe this also helps to reframe.
That's the bottom line.
So that was that week.
We need to share all this research. It's very intriguing.
Yeah. I had to procrastinate of some tasks, so yes, I read a lot of research. Invoices. I did not do my invoices and taxes, So I know a lot of last-minute research now. Go there. Thank you so much for joining. We have 10 more minutes. Is there anything that we did not touch on that you like somehow we didn't ask you, or you're like, well, this would be super relevant?
There's the question. Well, is there anything still burning with you? So I'm sure there's loads of things I could talk on, I'm sure, but put me on the spot.
I have
How
great
did
questions.
you go from that to your bigger, so you were going through all of that and you were talking about actually getting quite suicidal thoughts, right? And in that time, you took on, so your conference is like, how many people at your conference,
So last year we had 400 and the conference is 2 weeks tomorrow, and so we're expecting about 500. Yeah.
What is it for you that that shifted everything for you? So if anyone's listening to this and they're going through and they just don't even know themselves anymore in that identity crisis and they need a little bit of hope, right? Like, what is it that shifted? And I know we talked about going to the doctor, we've talked about grounding, but literally you've gone from that to leading one of the best conferences, I would say, actually, right, for 400 people, right, bringing together the best sports personalities. This is like, and you're going to join us in October or September, can't quite
leading a revolution.
And this is the thing, we ride at dawn, right? I think you saw my post about riding with dragons, right? We go from this to this.
So
10 minutes, but a little bit
okay. So I'll tell you the name of the conference first of all. It's called Impact Players, and it is about tapping into the edge that sport can give us. So the sporting mindset, like one of the things I love about the sporting mindset is we practice to get good in business. Nobody's practicing, you're just expected to hit the ground running. Like, it's bullshit, and we feel better, do all of these things, and so that's what it's about. And the mission is to get more women into decision-making roles in business and sport. So that's what Impact Players is about. I got myself better, and a big part of it was self-care, and I mean real self-care. So managing my mindset, getting the right support, discussions with my husband and family, like no one people pleasing, all of that. So creating space for me to focus on what I wanted. And then it was about, why am I here? It's what we've talked about. What's the impact I want to have on the world? What is my purpose? And then it was like, I'm sick of fucking waiting around something big. I'm going to make it happen. And I just had this, I want to do this. I want to do something high impact, make a difference, help as many people in one go as possible. And so that's where it came from. And it's both the hardest thing I've ever done and the greatest thing I've ever done, and I love it.
You've got your co-founder, so you've found the right people, and you've
Yeah.
got a coach for it, right? So I think it's
Oh
like
yeah, we got
the
good
navigation
coaches.
of, you're going through a new period. Who do you surround yourself with as well? And you have one of the best, coaches, because it was like running an event like that is no mean feat.
Yeah. So we worked. So my co-founder Lisa, I couldn't have done it on my own. That's a key thing. I wouldn't have wanted to. It's fun to do it with someone else.
It is.
Yeah. And then you're right. The coaches we work with are Andrew and Pete. They run one of the biggest conferences in the UK, and they do it differently. Because I hate conferences. Like, that's my whole thing. I freaking hate conferences. I hate how boring they are. I hate being uncomfortable, networking, all of that. So we've created the conference that we want to go to. And we've got these two brilliant coaches who have built something really big, and they have challenged us. And they came to the first one and they said, that's the kind of conference you pull off after 10 years, not in your first year.
Not if you're menopausal, you pull it off in the first year.
Yeah.
But anyway,
We
ain't got time to waste.
Can I ask you, do you have, are there hygiene products free at the conference? This is my thing right now. I do a feedback at every conference that I go to. I was at the Health Summit. I say, why are there not like products here?
There are already in the building. So it's there's been a big drive in Northern Ireland, which is held in Belfast, by a brilliant woman whose name just escapes me right now. The Free Period, and so most places here would have products available in public spaces anyway. So that's
amazing. I do this feedback to every conference that I go to, including the Health Summit in Basel, the big European. This is not possible to not have this.
Well, it is again another little research. If you want to do some digging, Iona, it was Scotland that decided to introduce period products for free. Well, I think they call it the Free Period Provision or something. I could be wrong. I think it's something like that. But it was a couple of years ago, if I remember rightly. And the idea behind that is just to make sanitary items for females just universally available and free. And I did, again, it's something that frustrates the life out of me, because if it was something that men went through, it would have been 3 years ago. And I think that that's the point, right? And what makes it even worse is in some cases and in some places it is a taxable product as well, which is even worse. So the idea of dignity coming first is still secondary for us women.
And then something how a system creates stress. If you think from girls, from 12, 13, and when do I have it? It's irregular. So this is system created stress. So when we look at stress for women, we have so much that is really, we have to react at 20 more stressors a day.
And it's the shame of it as well. And I'm talking Mediterranean heritage and the experience with my father. It was always a really taboo. You couldn't say anything, right? You couldn't talk about it. And it was this shameful thing. And I think that that's the point. You've still got a lot of the next generation that are going through that. And I think to jump on what you said earlier, Iona, like what could we give the next generation? Giving them an environment to actually embrace that that's a totally natural thing, and it's a beautiful thing that you enter womanhood and then you're actually going on to the next part of what womanhood means after the perimenopause and the menopausal journey and all of the things in between. We should be campaigning for it to be free, full stop.
We're not there yet. I know Iona has the same school system as me, and my daughter won't be able to take a day off sick from next year. Even if she's bleeding. And I think that teaches us not to even take self-care. Otherwise you lose grades. You take a day off sick, you lose grades. And so that's
Yes.
the Swiss schooling system.
Yeah.
And so none of it, oh, it looked like I was coming out. I'm still on. None
Yeah,
of
still on.
it, okay, none of it actually puts in self-care and
No.
understands that gender diversity. So I find it completely interesting. There is so much work we have to do for the next generation.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely going to take that fight. I don't know whether I'll win it because the Swiss system doesn't change, typically,
one,
but
yeah.
that was astounding to me that a girl cannot even take a day off sick without being penalized, but yet we have to go through a period. And there's a range of symptoms for people. So for some people it's fine. Some people you go all the way to endometriosis, but then they're impacted in education.
Yes,
so you're actually
are.
penalizing education
Double
at the same time.
punished.
Yep, you're double punished, and there is no law that really protects you. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we're ending that on a sour note, but I think it should be the
I'll
opposite.
give you a plus note quickly.
Yes.
I've worked with a few businesses who are doing things really differently. So not only do they have free period products, they have whole packages there for menopausal women, endometriosis, whatever. So there's a change of clothing, there's whole pads.
Oh, wow.
They have everything so that you don't get caught out. And they allow hybrid working. You know, you can work from home if you're going through it. So
In the effort of giving love to those companies, because we should be shouting about that, could you send us a link so we can add it to the bottom of this? Because I think it's really important that's spoken out about, because
So
it would be lovely
Mintel
to
is
see some
one
of them
the-
following suit.
Is what Mintel's one of the best ones I've come across doing that. So yeah, I'll try.
Okay, Mintel's, we're going to find you.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna take this really good question. How did you know how to do it? To really dig into, even highlighting even more expertise that is overlooked by the midlife experts themselves. I really loved that question and loved having you. Thank you so much for joining us on
Thank you for having
LinkedIn
me.
Live on this. Like, sometimes I forget I'm on LinkedIn Live, and I'm like, oh yes, I mean, there's this, my kids, teachers following, ex-colleague, like a lot of people, some cringe dates, I know for sure they are. So I sometimes I forget that I'm not with friends somewhere, but it's a LinkedIn Live, and I hope these vulnerable insights help someone right now at midlife with their portfolio careers and where they are
Thank
right
you,
now.
Sinead, for the genius
Yeah.
zone.
Thanks for having me, and happy to chat anytime.
Don't worry, we'll bring you back.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye everybody.